And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that knows that in the second series of The Trump Show, the writers aren't even trying.
Sure. Like they have writers in the first place. The entire show is improv and bad improv at that. And we know that because we are doctors.
Not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armstrong.
And on this week's episode, we will be looking at the by-elections in Aberdeen, Arbroath, and Broughty, Ferry, and Makerfield. We'll also be looking at the Kier Starmer terror plot, which you probably haven't even heard of.
It's going to be scintillating. After that, we're going to turn to the international arena, where we'll be discussing what may be the most important surrendered document of the 21st century. And, of course, we'll talk a little bit about some exploding oil in Moscow.
In the United States, we're going to be discussing cage fight that took place on the White House front lawn, Greenwatergate, as it will be called, and the Meloni photo. And finally, we're going to end on some good news if you're from the city of New York or from the nation of England. All that and more on Doctors Not Doctors, starting right now. Patrick.
Chris.
So, I don't know if you got up early this morning, but
I did for me. Does that count?
I wouldn't get into how early you or late you wake up. We have a certain amount of respectability on our show.
Yeah.
Given that
exactly.
we are doctors, not doctors.
Yeah.
And we definitely use every hour of our day to
100%.
the most advantage that we can.
Exactly.
In case you were underneath the rock, there were three by-elections that took place yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And two of them actually took place in Scotland, which most people probably didn't even know about. The third one obviously took place in Makerfield, which is the one that is set the hares running today.
Oh, quite. Yeah.
So
I think we should talk about that last time. Let's talk about the two Scottish results first.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Really? Aww.
No, it's fine. We yes, and as everybody knows, I work for the S&P Westminster Group, so this one specifically affects me. And we had a win and a loss yesterday evening. In Aberdeen South, we had a loss, and in Arbroath and Broughty Fair, we had a win. So,
all right. See, it's very balanced, Chris. It's very balanced.
When your seats, we only have 9 seats to begin with. Now we have 8, and now we're tied with Reform in the House of Commons. But Reform's seats are grown mostly through defections, and I think they've won one by-election. So all of our seats come from elections. So.
Well, I think that counts as a moral victory then.
It's more than a moral victory if I have to fight for anything. But yeah, I think we talk about Aberdeen South first to rip the Band-Aid off all the way.
Let's do it.
The candidate for the S&P was Richard Thompson, a person that I know, and he's a very good candidate. And he basically, obviously he ran a campaign. He did not win, although we were projected to do okay, not great, but okay. But there was a couple of things working against the S&P, and one of them was obviously the oil and gas situation in Aberdeen, and effectively this election became a referendum on oil and gas, which I think most people can agree that the primary driver for, if you wanted to go out and vote in this election was because you were interested in that industry or cared about that industry.
Gotcha.
And this is an industry that is highly political, because Aberdeen, I don't think people know this. It's actually pretty expensive to live there because the salaries are really, really high if you work in oil. So a lot of very well-off people live in Aberdeen, and frankly, specifically Aberdeen South.
Okay. And so Aberdeen is kind of like, it's if I'm getting this right, it's a little bit like sort of the Silicon Valley of the fossil fuel industry of Great Britain.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, like, it's basically a lot of people live there who work on the rigs. And in that area, you have an issue effectively with declining oil stocks.
Right.
Which, if you remember back to the Scottish independence referendum in 2014, the main argument of the Unionist campaign was that the oil's almost all gone.
Right.
They have abandoned that claim. And the Iranian war really did just put this massively on. It basically shot steroids into this argument that, the oil's not all gone and we need to start digging for more. So there are 2 places, Jackdaw and Rosebank, which oil companies want to have the UK government open up to explore and basically drill for oil out of these places. And the UK government has been dragging its feet.
I mean, I just to interject a little bit, it does strike me as a little bit interesting to have an election more or less focused on the oil industry just at the time when you've got sort of the war in Iran. So I understand that, like, obviously, with the disruptions to the global oil supply, with the increased pressure on the price of oil, it would be very easy to run a campaign saying, and see, this is why we need to drill more. This is why we need to, move away from net zero. This is why we need to be doing this stuff. And yet it strikes me as being the kind of thing that could only really work at this particular moment. And I say that because one of the interesting impacts of the Iran war has been a huge movement towards getting the hell off of fossil fuels, on account of the instability of the prices and the fact that the United States clearly cannot be counted upon to maintain the global supply of oil.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
There's this thing called the just transition. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept, but basically,
I've heard tell.
yeah, but basically, the entire concept is that we need a way to not do shock therapy to the oil industry,
Right.
and say we're shifting to wind and wave and solar and things like that
Mm.
tomorrow, and you are going to lose your jobs. I mean, that's
Right.
terrible economic policy.
That would not be particularly just.
No,
Yeah.
and so a lot of political parties, including the S&P, talk about having a just transition, a fair transition that takes, frankly, a very long time to basically ease people out of oil and ease them into renewables.
Right.
Over decades, really.
Yeah.
And long story short, these two particular areas have become, these big political touch paper, you set it on fire, and this is what was very much on the doors, from what I understand, in Aberdeen. There's other things that affected the S&P as well. But I don't really think the moral stuff was as important as people wanted it to be.
Okay.
There's a lot of, that information was already, out there anyway. The verdict happened
right
during the campaign.
That's right.
But all of the details were well known from beforehand, and including during the Scottish general election for Holyrood. So I think most people will agree that there was a massive amount of tactical voting, and the Conservative Party poured so much effort and energy into basically saying one of two things. The Conservative Party, who introduced the energy profits levy that takes money out of the pockets of the oil companies,
right,
is going to save the oil industry. And then at the same time, they say, "Don't you hate the S&P? Don't you just want to, like, don't vote reform, because if you vote for reform, you got to let the S&P in through the middle. So vote only for us." And it definitely worked, because they got 49% of the vote.
Okay. Now that's quite interesting. What was their percentage of the vote in the previous election then?
Oh, I have to check. Honestly, I would have to check. In 2024?
Yeah. Like, so.
Now, I think the biggest issue that in 2024, the general election didn't really have. Reform was in it, but not to the same level as it is now.
Okay.
Like as in, like, their importance, their
right, their sort of salience in the electoral scene. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not. I don't think it would be an exact 1-for-1, but in 2024, the we won the seat. Here we go.
Okay.
In 2024, we got 32.8% of the vote.
All right.
Who came in second?
S&P, right?
Labor. The S&P got 32.8% of the vote. Labor got 24.7% of the vote. The Tories got 24% of the vote, and Reform got 6.9% of the vote.
So even if every single Reform voter had shifted towards the Tories, there's no way that makes up the 25% swing. I see what you mean by saying that this looks an awful lot like tactical voting.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because that would theoretically mean a bunch of Labour voters voting for the Conservative Party on the basis of presumably either the oil industry or as an anti-S&P vote, which is not the kind of thing that Labour voters were generally known for. I would say this may be another indication of the collapse of the two-party system.
No, well, okay, in Scotland it's completely different. I mean, I think it's really important to clarify that in Scotland, the fight is unionist versus independents.
Aha.
So if you want to be basically if you want to beat the SNP and you know they're going to be very strong in your area, people do understand in Scotland, like, oh well, I may not be a Lib Dem supporter, but I live in the Highlands or whatever, so I have to vote for Lib Dem because I don't want the SNP to get in. I might live in Aberdeen, and in this particular case, I have to vote Conservative so that the SNP don't get in. So the SNP vote percentage-wise stayed more or less the same. Obviously, we're down 4 or 5% from the general election, but I mean, to go from in 2024. 24% to almost 49% is and the labor vote, and it's really important to point this out. The labor vote that just collapsed. I think it collapsed like 19% or something.
Woof.
Or even more. Basically, the labor vote is gone.
Yeah,
and you could just tell that these people just all ran to the Tories. So, and I understand, and people are not going to like it. They're going to say, "Oh, you're just making excuses." But in this particular case, you can't defeat the numbers. Like, in an election like in Arbroath and Broughty Ferry, which we'll talk about in a second, where it's much more even distribution of votes.
Yeah.
Here, it's not an even distribution of votes.
You're right. That really does seem like it, and it's a big shift from the 2024 election, because there you did have a very balkanized vote, right? The top vote getter is around 33%, right?
Yeah.
And then to have a shift towards, oh no, now it's a 2-horse race, and now it's the Conservatives versus the SNP, and then some minor parties as well, sort of bringing up the rear. That seems like a relatively big shift. It should be interesting to see whether or not that kind of tactical voting becomes. It seems to be becoming more common, I would say, in British politics, which may be something we mentioned when we move to discussing Makerfield. But
maybe.
Let's talk a little bit about Arbroath. What happened there?
Arbroath, completely different.
Right.
So Laura Bird, MP now.
Okay.
Our Laura Bird is now
well done.
SNP MP. And she, I know her, obviously. I also know who she is. I know so many MPs. It's so important. So basically, that was a completely different election. As you can see, as we said before, the votes are very much more even, but the SNP vote, I think, went up, but I can't find the percentages. Oh, but I can do the exact same thing I did last time. Yeah, we'll look up 2024 real quick. Oh, my microphone cord's annoying.
It's live radio, people.
That's live radio. We can't hit pause.
That's a doctor's not doctor's promise. Everything goes up unedited because we don't know how to run the software.
We don't know how to run the software. But we did basically. We're checking right now if the percentage went up, but we won. We got I think 40% of the vote or 41% of the vote. Yeah, okay. And the vote did go up. And so in 2024, we got 35% of the vote. Now I think we have somewhere to 41% of the vote.
Okay.
And I mean, the majority was like something like 800. Like, I can just check here. I think the majority of the seats was 859. Wow. And so the majority now is somewhere in the thousands.
Okay.
So,
all right. So
you're good with math.
Yeah,
I'm not. So
it's a pretty big shift.
Basically 10,000. We got 9,800 votes, and the Conservatives, who came in second, got 4,500 votes.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
So
yep. Okay. So
is a lot bigger.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. And I'm looking over your shoulder at the computer screen.
That's the kind of relationship we have.
Well, exactly, right. And so it's really interesting because there you do have, exactly as to say, a much more even split amongst the sort of anti-SNP vote, where Reform, the Conservatives, and Labour all sort of come in at around the same mark.
Yeah.
Labour a little bit less, sadly for Labour. But so that's interesting. So again, if you had seen the kind of tactical voting on a purely, okay, it's either the SNP or the closest competitor we can find, right?
Yeah.
If you'd seen something like that happening in Arbroath, you would also have seen a similar result. It's interesting then, I think, that for Aberdeen, you do seem to have that tactical voting, and you don't seem to have it in Arbroath.
It's because it's a referendum on oil and gas.
I think that makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, and I think it scans.
Yeah. And I think the numbers numbers speak for themselves. I think we've talked about this enough. On Monday, I guess you're going to see Laura and the guy from our Aberdeen South.
All right.
And obviously one more person be sworn in to
Indeed.
the House. So let's talk about Makerfield. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there is a by-election in Makerfield, which is in the north,
Just
not in London. So I don't know where it is. And frankly, somebody said it was outside of London, and I'm like,
obviously.
Is it next to the unicorns and dragons, where the land turns to dust? No, we're just kidding.
Yep.
Obviously, I know where the north is.
Exactly. It's south of Scotland.
It's south of Scotland. It's south of the wall.
Yeah.
So, okay. Basically, unless you've been under a rock, there was an election in Makerfield, and Andy Burnham was running against effectively reform.
Yes.
And it was looking like he was getting a bit close, but then a bit farther away. But it looked like he was going to get maybe 5 points more than reform.
Yeah.
So he got 55% of the vote.
Whoa.
55% of the vote.
That's quite a bit, Chris. Like, even if the reform candidate had gotten every single other vote, that's still a 10-point win. That's a stomping.
No, yeah.
Did the reform candidate get 45% of the vote, Chris?
35.
Oh, well, that's quite a bit worse, actually.
35% of the vote.
Wow.
Yeah. And basically there was this big thing about like Andy Burnham couldn't actually vote in the election because he doesn't live there. So I don't know if that's true or not. I saw it on X, and you know I'm going to caveat that heavily because it's X.
Yeah.
But I think you have here more or less a similar kind of tactical voting situation. Because have a look at the vote shares here.
Oh, yes.
Labor, because Andy Burnham is actually part of the Labor and Cooperative Party, which, give me 2 minutes here. The Cooperative Party is a separate political party that has a pact with Labor.
Right.
They have their own conferences. They do their own thing. So having a Labor and Co-op person come in, that's a big deal.
It's a little bit like the Democratic Farm and Labor Party. In the United States.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Andy Burnham got 55% of the vote. Rob Kenyon of Women Get Abortions for Vanity Purposes fame.
Yes. You know, the guy who has to admit he is a bit of a sexist.
Just a bit.
Yep.
He got 35% of the vote. Restore, who we thought was going to play majorly in here, and frankly, it probably did take these points away from reform, got 7% of the vote. So the first place was Burnham. The second two were far right and even further right parties.
Yep.
The Conservatives got 2% of the vote. They lost their deposit. And for those of you who don't know, I'm sorry, you have to get less than 500 votes to lose your deposit. So we'll check the numbers. But 2% doesn't look good.
But it's not great. It's not a great look.
And then the Greens got 0.7 and the Lib Dems got 0.4% of the vote.
That's well, actually it's 0.36% of the vote, Chris. 163 votes, which if you round up to the nearest integer is zero. So
that's true.
I mean, and to be fair, yes, this is clearly another example of strategic voting. This is very much okay, well, either you're in favor of reform taking the seat or you do not want reform to take the seat. And if you do not want reform to take the seat, who do you vote for? And clearly, Andy Burnham was going to be the big dog in this fight. If there was ever someone that people were going to be coalescing around for that purpose, it was always going to be the biggest vote getter. And that, in this case, was clearly going to be Burnham running for Labour. But what's interesting is that there was a lot of talk about whether or not reform would play the spoiler, whether it would take enough votes away
from... Restore?
Restore, yes.
Yeah.
Would take enough votes away from reform in order to prevent Farage's party from taking victory. And that really didn't happen.
It didn't.
This is honestly, this is quite a big result. And it's really important, actually, because it's not the result of purely anti-Farageism, I think. This is...
there's another part of it, but go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that a big underlying part of this election has been the knowledge that if Andy Burnham gets into Parliament, he will challenge Keir Starmer, and he will almost certainly win the leadership of the Labour Party and thus become Prime Minister. So everyone in voting in this election was sort of knew they were, in a way, the only people who ever get to elect a Prime Minister.
Well, technically, the Prime Minister's constituency elects the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister is selected by the King. I hate that particular system. But, I mean...
It's all right. The Kings agreed to play ball.
Yeah, the Kings agreed to play ball for now.
Yeah.
But, like, it's clear that like the turnout was also massive. I think the turnout in Scotland was in the 30s, like high 30s, low 30s, and high 30s.
Yeah, I think it was like 36%, something like that.
The 38, 31, I believe, 38 or something. Here is 59%.
Yeah,
59% for a by-election is ridiculous.
Exactly.
Because people basically were saying, okay, this is effectively it's kind of like Marvel Civil War, or Captain America Civil War. It's not really an Avengers movie, but it's kind of an Avengers movie.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, this is definitely like, people
it's
are like, this is the
numbers,
moment.
Chris.
It did numbers.
Yeah.
And Burnham won decisively. And now from Monday, he will be a thorn in the side of Starmer, and Starmer's already said, I will stand for basically, I will stand if somebody comes against me, I will stand in that election for Labour leadership.
Bless.
Now the Labour Party have said different things. The Labour Party have basically said that, not the Labour Party, all of them, but a group called the Red Wall, they basically said, you have to announce a smooth transition. You have to quit and announce how you're going to quit on Monday.
Yeah.
But
there are Starmer loyalists who are now letting it be known that they're telling him, look, set out a timetable for, how this ends.
Transport Secretary is one of them.
Well, this is the thing, is that, like, honestly, like, it's very clear that Keir Starmer does not have the support of the majority of the Parliamentary Labour Party. It's also quite clear that he cannot count on a groundswell of support from Labour voters. He's deeply unpopular. Like, he's Rishi Sunak levels of unpopular. So he doesn't have an awful lot of political support. He doesn't have a record that he can point to. He has no narrative of where things are going to go from here. This is like, and I want to be clear. I don't dislike Keir Starmer. I disagree with him on quite a few things, but I think he's fundamentally a decent man. I think he's fundamentally an honest man. I think he's fundamentally not a bad person at all. But it's quite clear that he is just not the prime minister that this country has needed. And I don't think he can sell himself as somehow, becoming that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that he doesn't have a support of the majority of the Labour Party in Parliament. I would say that it's incredibly weak, and I think a lot of them are going to be riding the fence to see what happens. But because a phrase that you have come to learn and love, the coattails of Keir Starmer are basically non-existent.
Yeah.
And Andy Burnham's coattails are growing by the second.
Yeah.
And so it will be difficult for Starmer to basically, I mean, I think if he does fight, and I think he has gotten this, he does have kind of a fighter's attitude once he's backed up into a corner. I mean, for him to kind of walk out, he would get the standing ovation at his last PMQs. He would get the whole, "Oh, you were so fun, I really liked you, oh God." They would, all these people telling him to quit now and get the hell out. They would be, fawning over him and doing the whole thing.
Absolutely. Retirement with dignity, gold watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole shake your hand and then kick you right out the back door.
100%.
But I don't know if he does go for that. Sure, that's great. Maybe he has a seat in the Lords in a couple of years. I don't know, but he does seemingly, when backed into a corner, just get this weird backbone that doesn't exist anywhere else.
I swear to God, like, if he ends up actually showing a little bit of spine and a little bit of fighter's instinct now at the very, very, very end, then it will be said of him what it was said of the Earl of Cawdor at the start of Macbeth: nothing so became his life like the leaving of it, at least politically.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I think that we saw this with the whole Peter Mandelson thing, and like that could have been and was very close to being a resignation issue. He did not resign, and he came out of it kind of a little bit stronger, basically by saying, "I'm not going anywhere."
Yeah,
and also I've admitted my mistakes, but that's kind of it. But all these things combined together, like if he stands for a leadership election, he's going to have Mandelson thrown against him. He's going to have prices, cost of living,
the recent local elections.
I mean, his track record. He could talk about the renters' rights bill. He could talk about some of that stuff. He could talk about trying to nationalize the railways, things like that. But his general track record that anyone really cares about and the stuff that's really hit people hard, that's going to be thrown in his face.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to have to wait and see what's going to happen next week. Apparently, Burnham's going to give Starmer a few days to figure out what he's going to do.
Get his affairs
because if there is a competition between, Labor MPs, including now Andy Burnham, you're going to be having like the actual like vote, probably, the Labor Party vote for who should be leader, like in maybe September. It takes a lot because we're getting closer and closer to summer recess.
There is already quite a bit of discussion, it seems, at the Parliamentary Labour Party saying that there should be an expedited process here.
Well, the expedited process is just Starmer leaving. It's not that they're just going to speed up the election. They have election rules they have to follow. The expedited process is telling Starmer, "Oh, I'm just going to resign." Okay, and then you'll have to figure out who the new leader is going to be, and then there's only going to be one person standing, and then that's it, right?
Right.
Like they did with, I think it was Rishi.
Oh, yeah.
Because
after the catastrophe of Liz Truss. Although I really don't want to, I hate even saying that because it makes it sound like, Liz Truss is in any way a comparator to, to Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is just not very good. He's not catastrophic.
Yeah. Oh no, he's not catastrophic. He just, he hitched his wagon to the wrong horses. And he pissed off the wrong people. Like he pissed off people who vote Labor and kept the people who don't vote Labor kind of happy. With that, let's move on to the next story of the week, which a lot of people aren't really talking about, really don't know. But basically, I'll start it with this. A few weeks ago, a colleague came into the office and said, "Have you seen this?" And he's like, "What?" And he put on a video of George Galloway. And if you don't know who George Galloway is, look him up.
Oh,
he's American famous because in early 2000s, he yelled at the Senate for the Iraq War. And everyone's all like, finally, somebody who speaks the truth and sense. But then when you get to read about him and know him, he's just a loon. But George Galloway was on his...
It's a one-man party.
Podcast. Yeah. Yes. The Workers' Party, I believe.
Something like that. It's no doubt something like that.
Galloway was talking about the fact that Keir Starmer's house was set on fire. Now, it didn't totally burn down, but there was people who set fire to his house. And the story at the time was that it was male prostitutes who were angry at Keir Starmer for lack of payment or some such grievance.
I'm sorry, Chris, but I refuse to believe that story on two grounds. The first of which is that Keir Starmer would be cool enough to hire male prostitutes and that he would be shit enough to not pay them. No, I refuse to believe either of these things of our man Keir.
A lot of people did believe it. And it turns out that it was, well, surprise, surprise, total bullshit. And it turned out to be Russian propaganda. And also the people who set fire to his house were maybe Russian operatives.
I mean, you say maybe Russian operatives, but like, from what I understand, they did take money from the Russian state.
And we know that because they were convicted.
Yeah. It's kind of
they were Russian operatives who were convicted, and I believe they recorded themselves setting fire to the house.
I think that's a great idea. I want to encourage every criminal going forward to definitely film yourself committing crimes every single time. It's a great idea. I see no way that could backfire.
Now, it also doesn't work well because Keir Starmer doesn't live in his home right now. He, for now, lives in number 10 Downing Street.
Yeah.
But I think his sister or sister-in-law was in the house at the time.
Oh, shit.
And I think they set fire to his car as well. So, and these aren't linked. They're not linked to the state of Russia, but they are linked to people from Russia who paid them for some reason. Some person named L Money. Yeah. But
okay, so
not specifically, you can't see the air quotes here, not specifically to Russia, but some guy from Russia is like, hey, it'd be funny if you set fire to the prime minister's house. Yeah.
It's just little organization known as FSB. Don't look it up.
I don't know who they are. So that's happened. And I think what's really interesting is that it's not really been the biggest news, and it's not going to be the biggest news this week, but effectively a foreign entity, an organization, a group of people have targeted the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, tried to set fire to his house or terrorize him in some way. And the only reason anyone knows anything about it is because there was also a massive disinformation campaign to tell people that Keir Starmer hadn't paid his male prostitutes, and more people cared about that than the fact that his house was set on fire. And the kind of people who are, and I'm getting this courtesy of James O'Brien, a lot of people who are dropping this into conversations from what I heard in the show are just, it's not just the flat earthers, it's just people who are like, yeah, did you hear about that Keir Starmer? heard he didn't pay his rent, boys. And then they set his house on fire. Isn't that funny? And like all of that was bullshit. All of it. Yeah, it fed into the conversation.
Obviously bullshit. Have you seen Keir Starmer? You've seen him on the television, surely. Like this is a man who I feel very strongly, if he found a £50 note on the sidewalk, would spend a good 3 hours going up and down the sidewalk asking random strangers, have they lost a £50 note? This is not a man who does give that vibe. Rules. No, seriously,
he doesn't give a rule breaking vibe. But it's obviously the story is nonsense. But it's more that people want to believe something bad about him.
Yeah,
and it worked, and people did. And when it turns out that it was foreign actors who were paid, and the fact that we know that just no one's going to care. Like, it's not going to be seriously considered or really taken as the attack that it is.
If you were concerned about national security in the slightest, you would see this as being a huge, huge problem. You would see this as an attack by a foreign state apparatus to influence politics through terror. Because that is what that is, right? I mean, like, if you're burning down someone's home, clearly there's an intent to intimidate, and in the context of Russia's, vicious war in Ukraine, it is not at all, it's not ridiculous to suspect that this is, an attempt by the Russian state to say, see, we can get to you if we want to. And also, we can cause you political trouble when we want to.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, I'm not going to have an awful lot of respect for any politician who talks big about UK national security, but also thinks that this is all just sort of a funny lark. So I'll put it that way. And I'm not talking about anyone in particular because I have no names at the top of my head on this. But if there are any people who are like, oh yeah, that was really funny, rent boys, but then also starts talking about how we need more money for the military, I'm just not going to listen to that person.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of indicative of the situation that not just the United Kingdom, but a lot of countries are in right now, where it's the division is so high that there's no more kind of unified thing.
Yeah.
Which in the United Kingdom, more or less, is the monarch, as opposed to the prime minister. But if the prime minister is attacked in such a way, even if you don't like him, you got to take a moment and be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And the problem is
we get to attack the prime minister. Damn it.
Well,
not somebody else.
If you can vote or if you live here, then you should be able to say stuff about it. But
100%.
Yeah, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's already happened, and we got a lot of other things to talk about today. So we're going to take a little break, and we will be right back. And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to turn our attention towards the greatest deal maker the world has ever seen, the Colossus who bestrides the earth and clearly makes great things happen with a nod of his jowly chin. And that, of course, is Donald Trump, who has just signed a very important document, Chris.
Yes, he has signed a Memorandum of Understanding. I believe that was signed on Wednesday.
I believe so.
In Versailles.
In the Palace of Versailles. And that's interesting, Chris, because I think some of our listeners may have heard something about the Palace of Versailles and agreements being signed within them in the past. They may be getting a certain sense of deja vu here.
Certain sense of deja vu, yes.
Yeah. So if you remember back in March when Donald Trump started the war, at that time, of course, the Strait of Hormuz had been open.
Yes.
And gas prices had been their normal, reasonable self.
Yes.
When he started the war, he announced that his goal was unconditional surrender. And by God, Chris, he has achieved it.
According to what I'm reading here, Iran has lost everything. I mean, there's no tolls. They're not getting billions. They've lost all their ballistic. Hang on.
Oh no, you got it. Sorry, you got it upside down, Chris.
No, yeah, I'm reading the fictional text from the multiverse where that actually happened.
Yeah, no. Instead, we got the unconditional surrender of the United States, basically saying, "Yep, we give in. We are crying uncle to the dictators of Iran." So that's really great, Chris. It's absolutely worth the death of 13 American soldiers and thousands of Iranian civilians.
Including that school that got bombed.
Yeah, including the deaths of many small girls. This is absolutely a worthwhile use of everybody's time
and money.
Yeah. So that's $100 billion, Chris.
$100 billion. Wow.
$100 billion that we spent to kill small children
in a
and get
cost of living crisis.
Less than nothing. I know.
And to have the price of everything shoot through the roof. And it's going to take a while for things to get back together. So there were two versions of this MOU running around, a Memorandum of Understanding. It's, how do you explain an MOU? So it's not a treaty.
Right.
It's not, it's quasi-legal.
It's kind of an agreement to agree.
Yes.
You know, it's sort of setting out, okay, we are ceasing fire, but also we're moving towards a political resolution on the basis of what's in this document. That is what a Memorandum of Understanding more or less is, right? So it's not the kind of thing that's legally binding in itself, but it has a real impact because it's effectively both sides saying, yeah, we can agree to this, and we're going to try to agree on more stuff. We're going to try to agree a final deal. So this Memorandum of Understanding, it's not the law or anything, but it does kind of tell you how things are doing. And how things are doing is that the United States has lifted the blockade immediately of Iranian ports. Iran will be allowing the free flow of trade through the Strait of Hormuz after the mines have been cleared. There's 80 mines out there. They got to find them. But they may be charging money to the ships that go through.
After the 60 days.
Which would be, if you're following along at home, the end of the freedom of the seas. You know, one of the cornerstones of global economic growth for over 250 years.
So part 5 of the Memorandum of Understanding says that Iran will make arrangements for its best efforts, using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vehicles, which means they may not get all those mines. But
they're going to try.
They're going to try their hardest.
The old Isfahan tribe.
but here's a key phrase here: with no charge for 60 days only, from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa, which means that for now you can get your ships out, but of course you have to wait until they get rid of all the mines, which will take weeks.
Exactly.
So basically all these ships are all kind of floating around in the wrong direction. Then you have to start pushing them through back and forth through the channel. Your 60 days are going to be gone in a second.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then Iran's like, well, guess what, folks? You got to start paying us money. Or maybe I think it was Iran and Oman are supposed to like share the toll.
That somehow like they're going to be collecting money for the maintenance of the naturally occurring Strait of Hormuz, which is otherwise known as a toll. So that's kind of great, Chris.
We also have to talk about part 6 and 7. Part 6 and 7. Part 6 is about money.
Oh,
and again, we have to take it back to the JCPOA that was signed by Barack Obama and was just vilified by the right because $1.7 billion of Iranian money that had been frozen since the 1970s was now going to be released to them in exchange for a laundry list of conditions regarding its nuclear program, whether it's about civilian energy, but they can't do the nuclear weapons.
Exactly, with really strict investigations and whatnot, and snapback sanctions and all that kind of thing for any kind of like failure to cooperate. It wasn't a perfect agreement. Nothing is perfect in this world, but honestly, it was a hell of a lot better than I thought that they could get at the time. And it was, I think, a real indication of like a sort of victory in the Iranian regime of the moderates, right?
Yeah.
Because the moderates have been arguing for years, let's start, more or less reintegrating with the global economy. We need economic growth. We need to end the state of isolation.
Yeah.
And the hardliners, of course, were like, well, no, then we lose our power. We don't want to have that happen at all.
A terrible idea.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the JCPOA had been a real victory for the moderates, because it was seen as an indication, okay, well, if we play ball, if we cooperate, then we can get the sanctions lifted. We can start moving back. We can start normalizing relations.
Yeah.
And the hardliners, of course, were like, this is all a trap. They're going to take it away at a moment's notice. This is all just a ruse.
And then America elected Donald Trump.
Yeah, and Donald Trump immediately tore it all up. And this was after a bunch of Republicans before the election told the Iranians, this is all a ruse. We're going to rip it all up the second we get, a new president in. So,
And so, and that led to 10 years? 10 years of Iran just fucking around.
Well, Iran had 10 years of like the hardliners saying, see, there's literally no reason to cooperate whatsoever. The only thing that works is building as close to a nuclear weapon without breaching the treaty, the non-proliferation treaty as we can.
Yeah.
So they start enriching all to hell, and they create a bunch of enriched material that isn't quite there to be able to make a bomb, so they're not in breach of the treaty.
However,
but it's really clear that they could be, and that was, that was their negotiating tactic.
But now,
yeah.
So that was then, and now, according to this memorandum of understanding, which was signed by Donald Trump in public next to Emmanuel Macron, the United States undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Now, $300 billion, Chris, my math's a little bit rusty, but that's higher than 1.7 billion.
A little bit higher than 1.7, even if you adjust for inflation.
And that $1.7 billion, that was Iranian money that had been frozen since the revolution in the 70s.
Yes.
Right? Whereas this $300 billion, is that also Iranian money that has been frozen since the revolution, Chris?
No, that's going to be new money. And effectively, the theory is that it's going to come from a consortium of Gulf states. And this is not very clear yet, but I would bet dollars to donuts that America will be paying these Gulf states for reasons unknown, and those Gulf states will then be shifting some of that money. Because if I'm a Gulf state who needs to be paying $300 billion to somebody who could eventually bomb me, so the first thing I'm going to do is say, I'm going to need 400.
Yeah.
I'm going to need 100 for me. So basically, Iran is going to be getting $300 billion for basically surviving the war with what we believe, and probably still is, the most powerful military on earth. But as we say a lot, and a lot of people say, you cannot regime change through bombing.
Yeah, and it turns out that that's true. It's
because the regime is still there.
I swear to God. Like, seriously, Chris, like, the number of times that in the 20th century you read about war and you hear about how the generals were convinced that if you could just bomb them enough, you'll win. That you can bomb the other side into submission. It's going to go great.
It didn't work with the Nazis in World War II.
It did not work for the Nazis, and it did not work against the Nazis.
No.
Like, bombing to break the will of the subject population or to break the will of the government doesn't work. What does work is, bombing munitions factories. That works a treat. That's great.
Yeah.
Love that stuff.
We'll be talking about that later.
Exactly. So this situation, basically, of the United States attempted to bomb its way into regime change in Iran was always going to fail. It's never actually worked, So it's just a perfect encapsulation of everything wrong with Pete Hegseth and the current jackasses
Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump. I'm going to leave J.D. Vance out of it. Because he's basically being put forward as the patsy for this is all the problem.
Because he had the bad grace to say, "Oh, this is a bad idea" before they did it.
Yeah, and now he has to pay for their disaster.
Exactly.
Other things that we need to talk about before we move on. Part 8 of the MOU. Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure. I'm sorry, my bad. Part 7. We'll get to part 8 because part 8 is basically that Iran's not going to develop a nuclear a weapon, but they're not going to talk about that immediately.
No.
That's going to be 60 days down the line.
Yeah,
Part 7 is what I want to talk about. The United States of America undertakes to terminate all types of sanctions against the Islamic Republic of Iran, including the United States Security Council resolutions. All basically, we're going to lift every single sanction because Donald Trump had a press conference at the G7 this week. We're recording this on Friday, the 19th of June, by the way, and at the press conference, he was under-energized, as he typically is. Is unusual for him to be under-energized, but he did fly across the planet, so whatever. But he said, in 4 weeks, we would have all run out of our oil reserves. And all of a sudden, we've signed this MOU. We've spent $1 billion on bombs. And at one point, it was $1 billion a day. Basically,
119 billion, I think, in total so far.
And so what's happened is he's basically said out loud, well, we're all about to run out of the stuff that we need for the economy to survive. I guess we didn't think about that when we attacked the first time.
You got me. You got me, you guys.
So we're going to let these people effectively win, and we're going to give them lots of money to rebuild their economy, and we're also going to get rid of the things that have any kind of control over them. And in exchange, they get to control the spigot through which we get that oil. I'm still looking here in the MOU
what do you
for
call that situation, Chris, where there's a war, and to end the war, you give the other side literally everything that the other side wants, and also you pay them a shit ton of money. Oh yes, you call that unconditional surrender.
That is yes. Yeah. Actually, there are conditions upon those who surrendered, because they and this is the result of Trump's grand design, which was, oh, it'll be easy. Oh, we'll just get Mahmoud Ahmadinejad back.
Ahmadinejad. Yeah, we're going to bring back Ahmadinejad.
And we're going to bring back all these people. We accidentally bombed him. It's just going to be like Venezuela, sir. It's going to be fine. Hillary Clinton was recorded, I think a couple days ago, saying, Israel kept on trying to get me to do this, and I'm just like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But Netanyahu, who's been in charge since forever, went to Trump and said, guy, I got a great plan. It's going to work. No backlash, because the final part of this we'll talk about is the Israel-Lebanon situation.
Yeah. Like, and to give you an idea of just how incredibly unstable this whole situation has been, immediately, like the day after the announcement of the Memorandum of Understanding, already there was talk about how the whole thing may be on the rocks because Israel and Hezbollah were once again bombing each other. Hezbollah claimed that Israel was sending troops to take a town, I believe Nabatea, and so they responded by sending rockets. The rockets then killed 4 Israeli soldiers. The Israeli government immediately went up in arms, and Itamar Ben-Gvir, the convicted terrorist who serves on the cabinet of Israel, then announced that all of Lebanon must burn because, he's a sober, rational individual like that.
Yeah.
So, that all looked like it was going to just tear everything up. But it seems that someone, possibly Donald Trump, spoke to Netanyahu and said, are you fucking insane? No, stop doing that. And so now Hezbollah and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire, which has now taken effect.
Today.
Yeah.
Like almost just now.
Yeah, like just before we started recording. So it's a good thing we were checking our phones, people.
Yeah.
Because, to quote Ferris Bueller, life comes pretty fast.
Yeah, we occasionally check our phones.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is all very much in a sugary peg, and it's very much that. But it seems that America, or I will be clear here, Trump was backed into a corner. Couldn't do anything, and now I guarantee you, what's going to happen between now and November is they're just going to say, 1, we won. 2, this never happened.
Yeah, and 3, it was all J.D. Vance's fault.
And it was all J.D. Vance's fault. It will be these 3 conflicting ideas in the same time, coming out the same mouths in the same sentence.
Oh, yeah.
We won the war. That wasn't a war. We lost nothing. It was all J.D. Vance's fault. Also, there wasn't a war.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, it's
nothing
perfect.
happened.
It's a great story to tell just before the midterms, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on real quick and we'll spend a little bit of time on this. But Ukraine, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not messing around anymore.
No. It would seem that Ukraine has been spending, the good Lord, 4 years that it has been at war with Russia. A whole ass Russia, Chris, invading Ukraine, it must be said, right? So, in 4 years of warfare, the Soviet Union was able to push the Nazis back all the way to Berlin.
Yeah.
In 4 years of war with Ukraine, Russia has managed to push forward a few feet. They're working on it.
Yeah.
They lost 1 million men, but they're working on it. But in that time, Ukraine has been building up its own arms industry. It has become the center of learning and thinking about drone warfare. It has become a center of drone manufacturing. They have increased their ability to strike inside of Russia with weapons that they create for themselves. The first 3 years of this war, Chris, most of the longer range weapons that Ukraine had were those that were given to it from the United States and from European countries and NATO.
Yeah.
But those weapons came with very strict limitations on how you could use them.
Yeah.
Because the US under Joe Biden was absolutely terrified of, annoying Russia, and then Russia nukes us all with its powerful army nuclear weapons thingy.
He's not a military expert, neither am I.
I am not, exactly. And it would appear that perhaps Joe Biden was mistaken about exactly what would and would not set off Vladimir Putin to decide to destroy the world and kill himself. It seems that Vladimir Putin actually prefers to keep living and prefers not to have a nuclear holocaust. So when Ukraine started making its own weapons and started firing them inside of Russia and actually using them to go after strategic and military targets inside of the Russian Union, the response by Vladimir Putin has not been to nuke London and Paris, but instead has been to say that's not fair and kill more Ukrainian civilians.
Well, yeah, I mean, but also we're talking about if the damage to Russia, as we talked about last week, is enormous, and the amount of people that they've lost is just cataclysmic.
Well, what's interesting, right, is that the people that they've lost have all been inside of Ukraine, and the economic damage that they've suffered has all been inside of Russia. So Ukraine, I think, has been incredibly smart about using its strategic weapons to strike at the oil industry inside of Russia to go after sites that cannot plausibly be seen as civilian in nature, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is in stark contrast to Russia, which seems to be only attacking, apartment complexes and schools.
Well, bombing to destroy the will of the people.
Well, exactly. So terror bombing somehow hasn't worked there either. It's a real shock. But so the most recent set of strikes inside of Moscow, which, for the record, Chris, the one thing that the Russian military is profoundly known for is having really strong anti-air capabilities. This is one of the things that the Soviet Union really focused on, because it was worried about, American bombers coming through with nuclear weapons. It was worried about ICBMs coming through. And,
it was the Cold War.
Well, exactly. It was the Cold War. And, Soviet fighter planes are not always the best, is what I will say. So the end result is that they made a lot of a stink about having really strong anti-air capabilities. And they have more anti-air capabilities guarding the city of Moscow than the vast majority of countries have in their armies, Chris.
Yeah.
And Ukraine is able to strike inside of Moscow with air-based drones and missiles. This is a massive failure by the Russian military.
Well, it's a turning point.
Right?
And
more to the point, they have been using that to attack oil refineries, and this is the cash cow for the Russian war machine.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of money that Putin has made in the midst of the Iranian war started by the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, countries have basically reduced the sanctions on Russia because that's where the oil is coming from.
Yeah, because they've been desperate to get as much oil into the market as they can. So this could have been a real opportunity for Russia to just make absolute bank, replenish the coffers, fix their economy a little bit, and continue the war. And Ukraine has been managing to go after enough of their oil industry that they've really limited just how much of a benefit Russia could gain from a war that has now, it appears, God willing, come to an end.
Come to an end?
Yeah, the Iran war.
Oh, the Iran war, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think Putin has basically lost out on an absolute killing, if you'll pardon the pun, when it comes to the oil industry. So I think it's really just, and I'll leave everyone with this. Go online and take a look at some of the video that was captured by Russians in Moscow of the attack, because you'll see one particular video. It's just great. You see a Ukrainian drone flying through the sky at a nice, stately, leisurely pace. And then out of nowhere, a Russian anti-air missile gets fired at it and then completely misses it, falls short, and then slams into a massive oil tank, blowing its lid up into the air and flipping it like a gigantic pancake. It is a wild, very,
image.
Very funny. I also hope no one got killed in that attack, but my goodness, it does not look good for Russia.
No. And with that, we're going to take our last break as we get into the section on the United States of America.
All right.
And we'll be right back. And we're back.
Shall we turn our attention towards the good old United States, Chris?
The good old US of A.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah, we should. As we get ever closer to the 250th anniversary birthday. I'm going to say birthday of the United States of America.
Yeah.
As we've talked about before, there's like two competing kind of 250th debates, not debates, like organizations, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And and I want to ask you if you know, don't look, if you know how to say the 250th birthday, what it's called in words.
Oh God. I want to say sesquicentennial, but I don't think that's right.
Well, I got two ones here. I got two of them here.
Okay. All right.
It's called the semi-quincentennial.
Ooh, the semi-quincentennial.
The semi-quincentennial. Mm-hmm, so I would like to talk about the semi-quincentennial. 250 years of the United States, and what do we have on the front south lawn of the White House?
Is it a sober, dignified ceremony befitting the importance of the state to the Republic, Chris?
I mean, there's so many things it could have been. I mean, fireworks, fine, no issue with that. Oh, yeah. Songs, dances, rock music, all sorts of music. I don't care. Yeah. That sounds fine. Blood sport.
Gonna have a hard pass on that one, Chris.
Blood sport on the south lawn of the White House. A giant steel cage was erected, sponsored by Bud Light and crypto and all the scams that you could find, all personally benefiting Donald Trump, who I believe invested in one of the sponsors.
Yep.
There was a fight on the White House lawn, and it wasn't just in the ring.
Oh, no.
People got into actual fist fights on the White House lawn, because it was a UFC fight. And listen, you get riled up, I guess, because when you celebrate the semi-quincentennial, you really want to remember that time you put your hands through the man's face.
Oh, yeah.
As you both said, man, it's really great to be an American. For those of you who are unaware, the UFC had a fight, showcase fight on the White House South Lawn. Donald Trump was the guest of honor. He came out to all sorts of horns and pompous fanfare. He was presented, I think the winner of the fight actually presented him with his winner's chain or like medal or something, because you need to kneel to Caesar,
obviously,
because in your honor we die. And it how do you describe trash?
I think it just did.
I mean, like the people. I'm not gonna quote the people who like UFC. Lots of people like UFC. Absolutely. I'm not one of them.
Yeah,
I'm not a guy. I don't like boxing. I like UFC.
But
I'm okay with martial arts. But
there's a fucking time and a place, man. Like I in the same way that I would not want to have an anime convention on the South Lawn of the White House, I would not want to have like a D&D session in the middle of a funeral. Like there are great things that you could do that are a lot of fun, but just not everywhere,
Well,
like
here's the thing. Here's the thing about why I believe this is happening. You were trying to pander towards Trump's now core vote.
Yeah.
And everybody who went, from all the footage that I've seen, almost top to bottom, loves Trump, and they were almost to a man.
Yeah.
A young man. There were some people of various ages, but I mean, there was a lot of young guys, and it reminds me of the under 16s ban here, because that's one of the other things that happened in the UK.
Okay.
The Keir Starmer, trying to change the subject before the by-election, announced that the UK government will be banning the ability for under 16s to go online on social media networks. How it's going to happen is very unclear. The only way it's effective is if you have age gating, i.e. you have to put your face online and say, I want to use X or I want to use Facebook or whatever.
Right. So
it's still unknown, but Reform is against it. And Reform's against it because where do you think they get
How else are they going to corrupt the youth, Chris?
Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look at these kids in America who are just like, oh, Trump, this is so cool. This is so cool, man. They had one kid from France. There's one kid from France that I saw, and it was Jordan Klepper, and he's just like, "Oh, this is funny," and he's like, "Would this happen in France?" He's just like, "This is a very American thing." It's like, but would it happen in France? He's like, "No, this would never happen in France." Like, of course, it's not going to happen.
Come on, dude.
Like, there has to be some kind of like honor about the White House, and I get it. Politics is a dirty game, but like the symbology of just having people beaten to death almost in front of the president as he sometimes is awake, sometimes is asleep.
Yeah.
And then the people who run that show, Joe Rogan was like the ringleader,
of course,
the ringmaster. And one of the guys, I don't know his name, I'm not going to learn it. he yelled out, Michelle Obama's a man.
Oh, yeah. I think that was the same guy who vomited on himself at the weigh-in at the Lincoln Memorial.
He had gone out drinking the night before.
Yeah. And so,
right, yeah. So, like, this is the kind of atmosphere that's being generated.
Yeah.
For Trump, and the problem is like, given everything else that's going on, like, is this a sign? Because this is obviously arranged a year ago, right?
Obviously, yeah.
But like, this would have been covered a lot better globally a year ago. Like, look at what's happening in the White House lawn. But now, given the war, given the cost of living crisis, it's just like, it's like the first canary in the coal mine, really, of like how like things are not working out.
Yeah.
And if this is your big moment, right? Yeah. Because July 4th is around the corner.
Well,
the July 4th should be the big moment, not this bullshit.
Yeah.
And why was it on that day? Because it was Trump's birthday.
Exactly, right? But like, and this is the thing. You've touched on this, and I think it's worth like really dragging out into light so we can see it squirm. But like, this is Caesarism, right? This is a deliberate attempt to sort of ape the ethos of the Roman Empire after the Republic has collapsed, right? And in fact, and I say that not just because, they have, gladiator combat in front of, the God King. Although I think that is very much what the idea was, to evoke the old like gladiator contests, right?
Oh, it definitely was. It was mentioned. This is gladiatorial.
But also like Caesarism of a strong man to overthrow the Republic and set the world to rights through violence.
Yeah.
This is a thing that people on the right in the United States have been talking about for a long time.
Yeah.
And the people behind Project 2025, a lot of them are on board explicitly with the idea of Trump needs to be an American Caesar to basically eliminate the Republic, eliminate the Constitution, and rule by fiat in order to remake America in his image.
Yeah.
So I think all of this, when they planned this a year ago, at that time Donald Trump looked effectively unassailable.
Oh yeah.
It looked like the dictatorship was being put into
all
place.
But set.
Exactly, right? And since that time, Donald Trump has failed again and again and again because he doesn't have the discipline, and he doesn't have he doesn't have the guts for any of this. He's a tired old man. He falls asleep in the middle of cabinet meetings. Like,
no, that's just clips and freeze frames and trans nonsense.
Yep. So I think all of this is just, I think you're right to see it as another sort of indication of how the authoritarian project is slipping in the United States. And the fact that this is happening in the same week as one of the most shameful failures of American foreign policy since I don't even know when. Like, the collapse of American power in Afghanistan, that looked bad.
Yeah.
Like that was not a great look. And a lot of people got very pissed off about it.
Yeah.
At the very least, it did mean the end of the war in Afghanistan after 20 years.
Yeah.
But like, the optics were bad and a lot of people got hurt. It was not great. The collapse of American power in South Vietnam in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Again, hugely damaging optically. But the United States is still the most powerful military in the world in both situations, right?
Yes. Yeah.
This is, I would argue, worse than that, because this is just optically looking bad. This is, it turns out Iran actually can block the Strait of Hormuz, and they can threaten the entire global economy, and we can't do shit to stop it. And they didn't know that before Donald Trump gave them an opportunity to find out.
Or they were too afraid to try.
Of course.
Then we did the thing.
Yeah.
And then they tried, and it worked.
Yeah.
So
it worked really well.
It worked really well.
Yeah.
I think we should move on, because there's something else happened, a little bit more lighter fare. In fact, it's more wet. You see,
I don't like the way you said that.
I know, but some will. But a few weeks ago, we talked about the fact that Donald Trump had paid somebody to paint the reflecting pool in the mall.
Yes.
American flag blue.
Yep.
American flag blue.
Yeah.
And that happened. It was a no-bid contract. And the whole point was that the reflecting pool in D.C., as we talked about last week, I believe, very difficult to keep clean because D.C.'s a swamp. It is literally a swamp, and we just paved over the swamp to make it look nice. but nobody really likes being there.
And the reflecting pool, when it was built in the 1920s, like it was not. There were some problems with the construction. I'm not saying it was like a botched job or anything like that, but it's always been hard to keep, to keep clean, to keep algae from getting in.
Well,
right?
yeah, because it's water.
Yeah,
it's not a pool.
Yeah,
it's just a man-made body of water. It's enormous as well. And so this week they turned on the pool again, and I believe we talked about it last week, but it got even better because in the interim between now and last week, they realized that the massive algae bloom had come up, which it was not supposed to happen. And so they decided, hey, I got an idea. Let's put hydrogen peroxide into the pool. But they were only doing it with like 5-gallon jugs.
Yeah.
Which you would need like 1,000 5-gallon jugs to actually deal with the pool that size. So it only got the edges, and the algae's still living happily in the middle. And then best part.
Yeah, go on.
Best part.
Go on, Chris.
That the American flag blue paint is coming off.
Oh, you mean like little tiny flecks of it are starting to pop up?
Huge tracks of paint are just sticking out of the water like fucking icebergs. Now, $14 million.
I am not an expert on pool paint, Chris. But I'm pretty certain that when you paint the bottom of a pool, you want the paint to stay on the bottom of the pool.
One would think that paint should stay affixed to the thing which it was rolled onto at speed.
Wow. And you say this is a no-bid contract because it was so important. It get done.
Had to be done by the 4th of July. And we are well before the 4th of July. They could have kept going.
Yeah.
But they said, job done. Job done. You might have a little bit of information, the company, like who runs it and what's their name.
Well, now this is interesting because this no bid contract for, I think, $1.4 million.
No, 14.
Well, 14 altogether.
Oh, sorry.
Thing, but
sorry,
just for
bad.
the painting, of the pool, Chris, right?
Yeah.
This went out to a company run by a trust, the Cafaro Trust, the head of which is J.J. Cafaro, John J. Cafaro. And if you look up John J. Cafaro online, you'll find a fantastic picture of him from the 2000s where he looks like a Goomba, Chris. Like he looks
from Mario Brothers.
Yeah, like a Goomba from Mario Brothers. Like he looks like he should be wearing a shell and have a bill. And also he's, clearly mobbed up. I mean, it's just like he looks like a Goomba. I don't know what to tell you.
Allegedly.
Yeah, so it's great. But what's amazing about J.J. Cafaro and the Cafaro Trust is the name of the company that he hired to paint the reflecting pool blue. And it is, and I shit you not, Greenwater. Greenwater.
Now that's weird because the water is currently green.
It's very green indeed.
It's like we knew it was going to happen. And apparently Greenwater has pond management, algae control, ecosystem balance. None of that should happen.
No, not even a little bit. They failed in everything that they did, much like Donald Trump. Like, this is a synecdoche for the entirety of the Trump administration.
Wow.
Make a big claim, do fuck all badly, have it fail, and then claim that there's no problem to be fixed in the first place. And also, just don't pay your contractors.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other great thing.
It would be very interesting to see if this dude gets paid.
I mean, the thing is, I have to think that he will, because I have to think that the point of this was just to give American taxpayer money to his buddies.
That's true. I think that does make sense.
Like, I don't see this as anything other than just flat out looting the American treasury to pay. And I would bet you, and I say this with absolutely no evidence other than literally everything Donald Trump has ever done for his entire life.
Yeah.
But I would bet you that there's a secret clause in those contracts where they agree to give money to Donald Trump personally.
Or his kids.
In exchange for getting this contract. If there are not kickbacks to this, then I just don't know what to tell you.
It'd be shocking.
It would be legitimately shocking if there weren't kickbacks.
It's the only consistent thing that they can do that they can get done right.
Exactly.
Making sure that they get paid.
Yeah. So it's great. He's torn down half the White House. He's fucked up the reflecting pool. He's got blood sports in the White House lawn.
Yeah.
He shamed the United States in front of the entire world.
And he can't even get a picture with Meloni.
I knew we were going to bring this up. Oh my God. Okay, so people. Here's the thing. the G7 meeting just happened, right? So Donald Trump met with
in Avion, by the way.
Sorry?
In Avion.
In Avion.
In France, yeah.
Lovely. I hope they drank the water. So at this G7 meeting, Donald Trump met with all the, various leaders of, important countries. And apparently, he's a bit more amenable to, not being a dick to Ukraine. So everyone was like, hooray, we're going to count that as a big success that he's willing to sell American weapons to Ukraine, as opposed to just, not selling them weapons that they can pay for in order to defend their country. Really big of him. Great job, everybody. We did it.
Huzzah.
Exactly. But Donald Trump apparently, and also, of course, during this meeting, he also went to Versailles to sign the surrender documents. So that's fantastic. But apparently he started telling people that Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, who up until relatively recently was one of his biggest allies in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Was an absolute Trump stan.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Until he got into a shouting war with the Pope.
Yeah.
And for some reason, conservative Italians didn't like it.
Yeah.
When the American president was a dick to the Pope.
Who was also American.
I know. And is just great. I love American Pope. I think he's the best.
He's just the beast.
But yeah, so apparently this didn't play too well in Italy, and Meloni has, I think, realized where the political winds are. She knows that Donald Trump is a busted fucking flush. She knows that his power's ebbing away day by day. She is no longer quite so into him. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump, in a fit of, I don't even know what to say, absurdity, dementia-addled, craziness, who knows, announced that Giorgia Meloni had begged him for a photo with him. And here's the thing, a year ago, Chris, if Donald Trump had pulled this shit, Meloni would have been like, of course I did. He's a great man.
Why wouldn't I?
The strength of the alliance between America and Italy, and that is how she would have played it.
Yeah,
it would have been
definitely
a filthy, ridiculous lie.
Yeah.
But she would have seen the political benefit in pretending it was true. That was not her response today.
No, literally today.
Yeah, her response today was that did not happen.
She said, quote, "I and Italy never beg."
Yeah.
Which is a big deal because, as Patrick said, a year ago, everybody would have been trying to massage their way around this weird call that Trump has said. She demanded, she just needed to be near me, and she's like, "No, I didn't. That's weird. Why would I do that? I'm the Italian Prime Minister. Yeah. You are you. I've already got my picture. This is ridiculous. I mean, like in diplomatic terms, for her to just slap him down like this, and it doesn't sound like that. How I and Italy never beg, but you're talking about a year ago, people were lining up to give him gifts so that they didn't get tariffed to hell.
Yep.
And now no one gives a shit.
Well, this is the thing. You can't make a deal with Donald Trump because he doesn't uphold his deals.
No.
He is not a Lannister. He does not pay his fucking debts.
Not at all.
The thing is, he thinks he's really clever because he can make a deal and then break it, get what he wants, and then not have to give anything. But he's stupid enough to think he could do that more than once.
He probably has done it more than once to other people, to other industries, but this is global politics.
That's the thing.
And,
countries have long memories.
And if Iran had capitulated, sure, maybe we'd be in a different situation, but they haven't. And
they would never, ever, ever go.
And they weren't going to.
Yeah.
Because as Trump said, the world only had 4 weeks of oil left in their reserves.
Yeah.
So and that's just math.
I'm going to point out, Chris, I think there was a certain podcast that did mention the issue with declining oil reserves and how that might be one of the reasons why Donald Trump may be in favor of making a deal. I think these certain savants on the internet, I can't remember. It's probably the guys at the rest of history, but
some well-educated guys probably came up with a prescient thought
exactly.
or two.
So it's just nice to see that our the way that we talk about politics is not completely divorced from reality.
Heyo.
Yeah.
And I think with that, we will talk about some good news.
Let's get to it.
And, I'm from Chicago, so I'm letting Patrick take all this.
All right. Well, my family is from New York, so I gotta say it. The next one, they did it in 5, which is great because the New York Knickerbockers, They have not won the playoffs in 53
years.
53 years. So that's what they've been waiting. They've been waiting, and now finally it has happened. The Knicks have won, and this is nice because if like the Yankees win, right, like depending on the World Series, that's great for part of New York.
Yeah, that's true.
And if the Mets win, that is great for the other part of New York.
Yeah.
Right? With the Knicks, this is like a whole of New York thing.
More or less, yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, they're the Brooklyn Nets, but they're very new.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but everyone was a Knicks fan. And then Knicks was such a storied tradition, and they've just struggled so much in the past 20 years.
So, do you remember when the Cubbies finally won the World Series?
Yes, right? I do remember that.
Yeah, like that was a big deal. And the entire country celebrated with Chicago when that happened.
Not Cleveland.
Well, probably not.
In fact, you make me want to put on my shirt that I got from Wrigley Field that said the greatest game ever played, and it's just the box score from that game. Anyway, this is about the Knicks. It's about the Knicks,
right? This is New York's moment to shine, and it's nice. And they've got Mayor Mamdani, who has just been absolutely killing it. There's a real summer of good feelings in New York that I think New York hasn't had in a while. And it's lovely to see, and it's really nice. And I'm just super pleased for them. So hooray for New York.
That is really, I'm from Chicago, and the Bulls are not good right now. But when I was growing up, they were. So congratulations to them. I hope I didn't see the parades and parties after the games. I'm sure New Yorkers treated their city with the respect that it deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. Ticker tape parade. The ceremonial burning of few cars.
It's New York culture.
Exactly.
The ceremonial burning of some cars.
Man. Just take it in. Exactly. And so
it's a sports burning. It's totally fine.
Exactly.
And if you live on the island of Great Britain in the nation of England, you will be happy to hear that England won their first World Cup match against Croatia, 4-2. Not bad.
Which is and that's just so sweet. That's just so sweet because a few years back during the World Cup, when England looked like it was actually doing really well, made it to the semifinals. Everyone was singing "Football's Coming Home," and then we played Croatia, and Croatia kind of sort of kicked England's ass. So for those who remember that particular game, that heartbreaker of an event, this must have been a very, very nice moment. Especially after getting to halftime, and it's even up, right? It's 2 each, right?
It's 2-2, yeah. Yeah,
the sense of, oh God, are we going to throw it all away? Are we going to lose again? Is Croatia going to beat us? And then the shame will last forever. And then apparently the coach gave what by all accounts was just the most Ted Lasso speech ever of you guys, you got this. Relax. Go play football. Kick some ass.
When he says coach, he means manager. He's still learning sports ball.
I'm very bad at sports ball.
But
and so
he's learning the sports ball. It takes time. But the World Cup is ongoing, and America's still making a pig's ear of it. But there's even a game on right now between the United States of America and Australia.
Ooh.
I won't tell you the score yet, but America's winning.
Okay, we should probably wrap this up then.
Yeah. Well, it's winning on an own goal from Australia, so we'll see how it goes next week. Next week we'll catch you up on what happened with the football and the politics and everything else in between. But until then, and as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armstrong.
And we are doctors.
Not doctors.
Good